Kroenke Live Sports Talk, where passion meets action.
Hey sports fans, I am Kroenke, and this is the Kroenke Live Sports Talk, the podcast where we dive deep into the hottest topics, the biggest games, and the most controversial moments in sports.
Whether it's football, basketball, track and field, cricket, or soccer, we've got you covered with expert analysis, insider interviews, and unfiltered opinions.
Join me as I chat with the biggest names in sports, get exclusive insights and stories you won't hear anywhere else.
Kroenke Live Sports Talk is where you can hear the real talk, the hard-hitting questions, and the hottest takes.
So, if you're a true sports fanatic, you don't want to miss out? Subscribe now to the Kroenke Live Sports Talk on YouTube and hit that bell icon to never miss an episode.
Kroenke Live Sports Talk, where sports come alive. Subscribe today.
Bless up, bless up, bless up, bless up. Hey, this is Micah kicking. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Let me know if you can hear me out in YouTube land. I will make sure that we're up and running loud and clear before I start. So let me know if you can hear me before I jump into my little soliloquy. And if you just joined, bless up Chorus. Chorus, can you hear me? Yes, Chorus, this Kroenke G. Love that name. Think I'll adopt it and maybe trademark it. Let me know if you can hear me, Chorus. I'm sounding low to myself, so I want to make sure they can hear me. So if you notice you can't hear me, Chorus, I can't see a response from me, Chorus. Let me get a response first. And people, as you come in, just do the thing we're supposed to do. Because a lot of you are returnees. So we shouldn't have to have this back and forth about what the objective is here and what your role is, which is a combination of hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. And then, you can hear me loud and clear. Okay, good. So if you notice, I had one topic on the agenda, but we never have one topic here. This program goes off in various directions throughout our discussion. So even though this is the program I have here, which is a Man City, Arsenal, Reggae Boy linkage and how those things connect, it may not be what you're thinking. What do you think you're thinking when I mention that? Even though some of it is in the description, because a lot of people don't think I'm talking about the game that just played and how the game materialized and ultimate direction of travel. All right, Paul, I hear you. I will ignore football guru today because it will come up because I will talk about JFF a little bit today. But let me touch upon a couple of things because JFF is going to be part of this discussion because there's a lot of JFF discussion today, actually. So I will ignore football guru. If possible, people, it's possible. So a couple of things. The Integrity Commission and what's transpired with Jamaica with the Prime Minister is obviously prominent in the news. And I get, let yourself jobless, thanks for joining. And I get a lot of communication sometimes from people just text me information, which is very useful and which I utilize in this show periodically. So those of you who are text me information, which is clips or verbiage, whatever it is, I appreciate those because it does inform my view and helps me sort of think about, especially in my opening discussion, actually, because sometimes I just want to jump into the topics, but there are other things out there people are concerned about, want to talk about, want to provide information on or receive information that I think should be known. And that is important. So I will touch upon the whole concept of the Man City, Arsenal, where they were and where they are today, and the process about how they got there. And then secondly, I will touch upon a number of different things which I really want to talk about, right? Well, in fact, I'm going to talk about those things first, and then I do the Man City Arsenal component. Because the Man City Arsenal component talks to how can that be leveraged by the Reggae Boyz, i.e. Jamaica football, bless up Dr. Dan, to improve our football, to get us to where we think we should be as a country, as a nation, and as a people as it relates to football, given that I've been told numerous times that we have the raw material. Let me touch upon a couple more things first before I go there. Actually, so someone sent me this clip, which I'm gonna play, and then I'll talk about it. So you know there's been a discussion about the Integrity Commission, the Prime Minister, his various bank accounts, number of companies that he has, and what that entails. And a question was asked of Dennis Chung, who is the Gen Sec for the football, but holds a lot of different roles and titles in Jamaica. So let's do it and we talk about it.
They have 28 bank accounts. In fact, I can tell you, my experience is that if you go into several private sector businesses, you'll find that they have a multitude of bank accounts. Some of them inactive, some of them they're using, but people own bank accounts for specific purposes. So it's not unusual for people to do multiple activities. If you're doing multiple activities, then obviously, one of the ways I find that people, especially non-accountants, try to reconcile their business is by having payments through different cash bank accounts. Accountants, for example, might have one account and then you reconcile and adjust between. But many people, it's not unusual for them to do that. So, I heard this story about, or this comment about the number of bank accounts that are out there. And the truth is that I think is really detracting from what the real substance of the argument should be, which is, what is it that is going through the bank accounts and how much money is in there. Because if I have 28 bank accounts, for example, and I could have $2 million between them. Someone could have two bank accounts and have $500 million between two bank accounts, and that is a greater problem than my 28. So I don't think that the number of bank accounts is something that we really should focus on, because it really has no substance behind it. In fact, there are sometimes also when you go and do specific transactions with certain institutions, and they themselves will mandate that you open separate accounts. So therefore, sometimes it's not because of your own choosing why you want a new account, but they will say, listen, in order for you to do this product, right, or for you to do this investment or use this checking, this different company, I want another account, or I want two accounts attached to it. So, I hear the argument, but I think that the argument is really a detraction, for example, I think, from what this substantial situation should be, which is really the transaction itself. And I'm trying to understand what is the investigation around the number of bank accounts. What are you going to achieve with that?
So you heard that's Dennis Chung, who is the Gen Sec for the Reggae Boyz, and he's a supposed financial expert in Jamaica. As you can see from the picture, I type his name different. They said Chang in the thing I pulled up. I think it was Chung, so I have Chung there. If you see a misspelling there, either on my part or on the picture, I got the picture from someplace. But the question that arises that is he right in terms of are people being distracted by the number of bank accounts, and should they do what he says, which is focus on the substance, which is what are the transactions that pass through account? People, if you're just joining, hit the like button. Come on. Bless up Caribbean Rivers. Thanks for joining. And I know people are going to say, Kroenke thought this was a sports show. Why you talk politics? Well, I'm changing the format a little bit. We're going to mix up some things sometimes. So we're talking about things that interest us and not just the sports of the day, even though we're going to talk a lot of sports today. So I agree and disagree with Dennis. What do I disagree with? The number of accounts are important. Now, he's saying that it's not substance, that's more form. And he gave example of private sector companies that may have a number of accounts. He mentioned that banks may want to open multiple accounts for different things. Don't disagree with any of that, actually. But the Prime Minister is not a company. The Prime Minister is not in the private sector. The Prime Minister has been in politics almost his entire life. In fact, I don't think any leader for any country, I think there should be certain areas, the Prime Minister or the President, the head of the Treasury, the head of finance, there are certain disciplines and area in a given organization whereby those individuals should not manage their own accounts. Right? They should manage their own accounts. They should manage their own investment portfolio, especially when their whole life has been spent in the public domain. Why? Because if you're the finance minister, You are the president or the prime minister. You have access to a lot of information. Your decisions influence the economy, the stock market, everything that happens around you. People are going to make decisions based on what you do or what they think you may do. As such, if you manage your investment portfolio, if you manage your own company, you have an inherent conflict of interest given your role in the country. How that can be okay, I don't know. I can recall way back when we had the financial crisis in the US, just I think 2007, somewhere around there. Subsequent to the crisis or during the crisis, the head of an investment company, Goldman Sachs, who's probably the most prestigious investment banking company on the street. They manage people's money. They do investment banking deals. They trade securities. He went to be the head of treasury for the US. They brought him in. And I can recall at the time, my understanding was he put his portfolio in a trust because he understood his role and what his role entailed, and that it would be a significant conflict, if he manages portfolio and making some of the decisions which are macroeconomic in nature. So if that's the case, then, and you have all these, first of all, if you have all these bank accounts, just think about it. Why do you have all these bank accounts? Even if you're the prime minister, you're not in the private sector, you're in the public sector. Secondly, why do you do so many accounts? How many companies do you have? Why do you have all these companies? What do these companies do? That, to me, is not logical for a prime minister. Now, the only person I know, probably in the history of mankind, who can do these things, one is some African dictators who just do what they want to do. Nobody can control them, not in the name of the Western world. And then Donald Trump, who went in as a billionaire and have a ton of companies, so he's going to have a ton of bank accounts. Here's where a private citizen may have 20-something bank accounts. If you have, say, real estate portfolio, and you put each of your real estate asset, individual houses, in what they call a LLC, limited liability company, and the main reason for that is legality, which is if something happened on the property and I get sued, for example, I can put a veil over it. It's a separate legal entity. It doesn't conflict with my business. I don't want it to be combined with my assets. So it's standalone and it bears all the liability and all the assets and all the income pertaining to it. You may set a separate, different company, and that's important for tax reasons and otherwise. But you're the prime minister of the country. You're in politics all your life. When do you get started to manage your own portfolio? When did you get started to have your own companies? When do you have time to do that anyway? And why should you be allowed to do that? There is the perception of conflict of interest. There's the appearance, and there's the actual conflict of interest. You hear me talk about that a lot. And that's why me and Rudolph had a falling out, because he came to get that through his head. Or he believes that conflict is all over Jamaica. So why am I pointing him out? You're in my spear. Try to point it out. But I'm pointing it out here. It's not okay. So when he has 20-something bank accounts, he said 28, let's say it's 24, because 4 were opened back before he was born with his parents, whatever you want to put it there, it's still a problem. 24 is a problem. And so I disagree with him on the number. That is just form, not substance. And then on the substance, I agree with him wholeheartedly. Probably more important is the number of transactions that goes through the account. What type of transaction? What's the nature of the transaction? What do they entail? Who is he transacting with? So there is so much conflict inherent in how Jamaica operates. It's almost as if we have normalized it. While in most countries, or at least industrialized countries and Western countries, those conflicts, people put things in place to manage the conflicts because they create problems. What a conflict does is may give you a disadvantage versus the rest of the population. That's how markets work the way they do. You get a disadvantage. You disadvantage the others, or you get an advantage of the person, whether it's in relationship, whether it's how you procure supplies, things of that nature. That's a problem. So I agree and disagree with him. He's a well-known person or commodity in Jamaica finance communities. I respect his perspective on some things. But here, I agree on the substance of what's in the account. I disagree in that 24 doesn't matter. 24 says a lot, actually. So yeah, I think that's important. That's important, actually. Very, very important. So I can understand. And by the way, Dennis has run a lot of different organizations. AC said, what is often? It's the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management in Jamaica, actually. You can look up what they do. You probably, if you think about every country, they probably have an office like that. right? In terms of, think about when you have emergencies. I forgot what they call them in the US. Things like FEMA are part of that whole construct, actually. We have flooding, earthquakes, things of that nature. People come out and make sure, first of all, you're ready to manage difficult situations and problems. And secondly, as a country and an organization, and that you have policies, procedures, processes, things in place to react to emergency situations. So you prepare for them and then able to react to them. Companies have those, countries have those, right? Yeah, Corey, Donald Trump is a different animal, different than anything else. But the point is that and this transparency is important, people. First of all, let me tell you something. The prime minister, I promised I was going to do a show on this, but I'm cutting into my time doing this. Prime minister should not be managing his own assets. He should not given the role he plays in the country. That should not happen, actually. But I know in Jamaica, conflict is innate. And it's hard for conflict to be innate because they get created, but they're almost innate the way people operate. And he should, because there's a concept of transparency, and he should publish his tax return every year. I know he does these statutory disclosures, which seem to take forever. Declaration, I should call them, not disclosures, but it's really disclosure. They seem to take forever. That's one thing, because you're talking about 2021, the people. That means 22 is not there yet. 23 is not there yet. And then there's 24 is almost finished. And we up to 2021. We're still struggling to get to. That's what the declaration is. It should be every year, within 6 months after the year, you provide the information. And he should publish his tax return. Now, the only person who don't publish the tax returns is Donald Trump. Like I said, Trump is in a different category himself, but most other people running for president or who are president of the United States, I'm using the United States example, they publish their tax returns. You see how much they make, right? And you notice that the governor of Minnesota is poor. Why I say he's poor? Because he's about 60 years old and his total net assets is $1 million. And that's before taxes. Because when people tell you that their assets is, I'm worth $3 million, the question is before or after tax. I don't think the concept of net worth should be before tax, should be after tax. Because if you have $1.5 million, you can't spend that 1.5 if your tax rate is 50%. You only get $750. That's what you're worth to me. So when people have the concept of, your net worth is 10 million, 5 million, 200,000, I say tax effect that and tell me how much I worth, because that's what I can spend. If I sell my house, if I sell my car, if I have it all in cash, that's my spending power. And if you don't have all of it, the government have half of it, I don't think it's your net worth, because half of it belongs to the government. Yeah, of course. I mean, you can't have somebody who control the country, both the finance minister and the prime minister or the president. They oversee everything. When they make decisions, market move. When they make decisions, market move. Or when they do certain things, market move, adversely or positively. So they can have stocks in a company or in a certain industry. They're going to make certain policy decisions. They could make it of their own benefit to improve their net worth, as they call it. So I don't think it's okay for that to happen. So my point on the whole thing about Dennis is that I agree with him wholeheartedly that more substantively is what goes through those bank accounts, but the number is also telling a story. And transparency seems to be something that's foreign in Jamaica. You hear me and the JFF always arguing about the transparency, and I get pushed back about transparency. Transparency create comfort. Transparency create trust. Transparency allow people to say, you know what? Yeah, I'll do business with you. If everything is opaque, you're just like, you know what? I don't want to engage with you. I can't trust you. I don't know what you're about. So when we talk about those things, it's important, at least from where I sit anyway. So that's my one thing on that. And then I saw today, I think it was on CVM, his business partner heads to government entity also. And people, I saw today where somebody, where on CVM was saying that people are going to protest outside the Integrity Commission. Up here, my people live in Jamaica, At least the one in one person. Not say out of Jamaica, but people. And I'm going to say this actually. So, me don't get beaten to the butt. I'm going to rub my eye out because I can't feel the beating that come. The headmaster of Manchester, all these things collate, so don't think I'm being all over the place, said that between the ages of 17 and 15, 30-something% of the kids in Jamaica can't read. And that migrate to you being an adult. And that migrate to you being manipulated. Because it's important to be able to think deductively, to think logically, to educate yourself, which informs your ability to think. When somebody say you can't write well, actually, they should say you can't think well. People don't seem to realize that. Because when you write nowadays, given how a word is constructed and situated, it's not about grammar anymore or punctuation anymore. It's about how you communicate your thoughts on paper. And so those people want to go to the Integrity Commission to go protest. What are you protesting about? Do you understand what you're protesting about? Or be you being manipulated by the politicians? If somebody's meant, I don't know if this is education or not, but if somebody's saying the president business partner, why is the president having business partners? The prime minister having business partners? You're the prime minister. Which business partners? People, have you guys really thought about this? Seriously. And you guys think this is okay for a person who controls the country, control decisions, controls where the economy goes, what happens, control public sector, private sector indirectly, because they make decisions that affect private sector. They're okay to have business partners? How do you think that countries always have problems about supply and procurement and what contracts are given out to construction or any other discipline? How can that be okay? And you go, what are you going to protest? That you don't know what you're doing? Do you know what you? I'm confused. You're going to protest because somebody has integrity. There's a reason why they have integrity. That means they're honest. It's supposed to be an honest organization. And you protest them because the person who's been not even accused, who've been brought to bear, feel it's okay to bastardize, denigrate, belittle, disparage, destroy the organization that's meant to ensure that we have protection for the public in Jamaica. My head is hurting me. Like, I'm confused. Really? You guys are making this political? It's not political. He should answer the question as to why he's doing business as the prime minister, private business, when he's supposed to be taking care of the public. He decided to make his career public servant. That means you decide to be poor. Let me say it again. If you spend all your life trying to do goodness, which is help the population, help the people, help the country, you decide you're going to be poor for all your life. That's what you decided to do. There's no enrichment. Don't flip the script. Don't say, well, I have all these businesses because I have to survive. No. That's what you decide to do. That's the reason why Nigel tripled the compensation of members of parliament, because he realized he will not get the people with the pedigree that he wants in those sectors because it doesn't pay. What does the prime minister make a year? $60,000 US? Chump change. You choose that profession, that discipline. When you resign from prime minister, go do public speaking like Obama does and make millions and live happily ever after. But while you're there, you're poor. That's what you choose to do. It's a fact. And there's no work around it. So when you come in, and I recall your entire speech where you talked about the whole process from inception to culmination of what you did and that you legally provide everything you do, it's a problem. And I'm going to beat the people. I'm going to try to help the country. I'm not protesting people in the country. And the press need to do a better job. Because I know Jamaica is challenging, right? I can sit in my little throne outside Jamaica and say what I want to say. I get that. And I see people in the press are questioning some of these things, especially the timeline. But not to protect the Integrity Commission. It's unfair to them. We seem to do this really well. We want to really take to task those who are providing public service to try to help the country. Bless up Johnny Powell. I don't understand that, people. I am totally confused. The people who are trying to help and hold people accountable, who don't want to be held accountable, are the people who are given a hard time. So let me just say this, and I'm going to move on from this, and I can digest this. If you decide to, first of all, $60,000 is the highest compensation for somebody, I think, who's in the parliament. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong. I'm talking about US dollars. Now, how does that person who's been in politics since their late 20s and hold a constituency in their late 20s, how do you afford the lifestyle you have, sir? Now, we know you get other perks that may add up to another $60,000, $70,000, $100,000. We understand the perks. Still doesn't translate to you increasing your portfolio by $300,000 plus US dollars over a 3, 4, 5 year period. It doesn't. So I don't understand, and I don't hear, I haven't listened to Jamaica radio station more recently. But hey, Maverick, come in, you watch a program in Maverick. Make sure you watch it. Let me tell you something, Maverick, call out them things at Maverick. No talk on top, no surface the talk. You say the most objective person. I call you out. I call you up on something else again a while ago too, but not for the wrong reason, for the right reason. Because until you talk about people in Jamaica and you may say something which they don't like, them see your bad mind, and you criticize, and that's all you do. That seems to be the standard the standard thing for most of the people who have significant positions in Jamaica when you take them to task. Your bad mind, you think you know everything. You know, Livia, so you don't know what Guanya, you can't understand. No, me understand. Me understand. I only not understand. Karen is saying people don't care about this country, just JLP and PAP. Yeah, but the thing is that, look, the concept of party affiliation and people being slaves to their party is not Jamaica unique. It's here too. Democrats, Republican, right? But they have more stark reason to be so. Less than Jamaica does, frankly. Different reason. The ideology is different. There's race and other things that make it more complex here. Jamaica is almost a monolithic. So out of many one people, most of 90% of the people are black. So we don't have that race thing. We have a class thing, not a race thing. So, but anyway, I know people say, I come here to hear sports cranky. When are you going to talk some sports? I'm having fun talking politics, so we're not talking about sports right now. We'll talk sports. The subject we talk about. We'll talk sports, but we want to talk the politics. So yeah, it's interesting. I have a problem with how how some of these things are and how they work. And when I have time to finish reading the document, I'm gonna do a whole probably 3-4 hour show on it. I think it's interesting, very interesting. So let me bless up Nitro. Yeah, hey, Morris, I have to read through the whole thing first to understand it. First of all, let me tell you something, people. The auditors know more than what they're telling us. The auditors are more skeptical than what we get from the report. The auditors have scrutinized certain things and they don't like what they see. But they know, this is my speculation, right? So this is all alleged. But they know what they know. They don't know what they don't know. They know what they're concerned about. And they're trying to figure out to make sure, you know what, we got to change this. We got to correct this. But how best, and we know what implications are. We know how the political environment is. We know how people are going to receive this. We know they're going to make it more parochial and say it's about the PMP, JLP thing and all that stuff. We know they're going to do that. But also we know it's going to affect us materially and what do we do, because our job could be at stake. Our role could be at stake. When people are going to protest at Integrity Commission, you will never see that in the US. You don't see nobody go protest at these commissions where they bring these things out. Now, they may say it's partisan in some respects, but you're protesting against people who are trying to do their jobs. It can't be okay. Can't be okay. So those people deserve better. And better, let me tell you something. It's my last point on this. For auditors, when they do their best job is when they have the worst outcome for themselves. So when you do your best job and you do some brilliant work and you get findings and you feel good and the report is bad, report normally have ratings. They don't have ratings on the report. So ratings could be anywhere from, it's never good. It's always satisfactory, bad, worse, terrible. Let's call it that, ratings. When you do an audit, and terrible is really ever come across. People have terrible. I've had reports called terrible. Trust me, it's like nuclear. It's like Teflon. It's horrible, horrible. You love it because you do brilliant work. You hate it because you know the implications of it, especially when it's in sensitive areas. And this is as sensitive as it gets. People, you're auditing the finances of the Prime Minister of the country, the most powerful. Well, he's not the most powerful. One of the most powerful person in the country. There's other people behind these people who are more powerful, but you don't know them. Like Rupert Murdoch, probably the most powerful person in the US. People think it's Donald Trump, but Murdoch controls Trump. So, he controls him through the media and other means, right? So they have as much power. But from a profile perspective, he's the most powerful person in the country. And if that's the case, then you can imagine you being an auditor, you're not the most senior person, even though you have bosses who are put in the Integrity Commission. You know how uncomfortable that is when you have to have these difficult conversations? It's actually not fair. It's actually unfair to those people. They shouldn't be put in that situation. But it's all internal, so there's nothing you can do, because the highest person with the highest role, unless you go to like your Supreme Court, for example, is the is the prime minister, right? And if you call it, I forgot to call it in Jamaica, similar to the Supreme Court here. So yeah, difficult situation. Don't envy those auditors. Would not like to be in their shoes because I know what they're going through, and it's not fun. In fact, it's unfair actually. So let me try to do a little bit of sports. I was watching a program today, and the discussion was about Maverick, who's at TVJ, and Oral Tracy, and him talking about the Reggae Boyz coach, and basically said the coach doesn't live in Jamaica, he lives overseas, and he mentioned how Grimson came to Jamaica, lived there for 2 months, then went back to his country, and he's basically saying, how is that coach going to be able to then see local talent who may be able to make the team, blah blah blah, right? And the take was that at least say we probably shouldn't have those discussions because it's probably come across as being negative in some respects, may not provide the right outcome that we're looking for, may dissuade people from getting involved. Here's my view. I don't think we should put restrictions on people for anything. Let them talk about what they want to talk about. I have no problem talking about Mason Greenwood and his situation. I have no problem talking about the coach and his situation. I have no problem talking about the JFF and their situation. Now, they may not like it, but my view is it's a free country. It's a free universe. Well, some of it's free, some of it's not free. Get over it. Every subject you can talk about. I have no problem Maverick talking about that. My problem Maverick is this, and Maverick probably hate me because I keep bringing his name up. First of all, I put on Maverick. I'm going to say this actually. So Maverick came out, and I'm digressing a little bit, but I'll come back to my story. Maverick came out and talked about the Integrity Commission and about Bro God. And I put on it that, so I'm calling him out on this. I put on it, I'm sure others may have talked about it, and he may have talked about it, that it's very convenient that Nigel resigned when he did, given what transpired. And I heard him on the next show talking about that, right? So where they got it from me or not, I don't know, but he did talk about it, which is important. I'm not not trying to put any aspersion on Nigel. Nigel's a brilliant man. There's no doubting that. Nigel's making 3 times what he making Jamaica, subsequent to the triple pay raise. So Nigel, sixtuplet is, if that's a word, is pay raise. He tripled his pay raise, is pay in Jamaica from about 44 to 130, whatever it is. And then he go to the deputy managing director and triple it again. So Nigel, 6 times your money in less than 2 years, Nigel. We want to be like you. It's a good thing. But the point I'm trying to make is this, is that Maverick does call out certain things, but certain people him not call out. So him not as objective as I say he is. No, Maverick will say, I don't even know who this person named Cranky is. I don't care who this person is Cranky. Maverick, me listen to you. You're a smart man, but you're not as objective as you think you are. You're not. Trust me. Me listen to you. Not objective think you are. There are certain people you like and certain people you not like. You're not a total fan of the JFF, by the way, which I can understand. Even though they're doing a lot of good things nowadays, which we should give them credit for. When they don't, we're going to call them out. And they don't like that. But he talked about the coach. And the JFF did say, people, that one of the prerequisites for the job, you have to live in Jamaica. And I was trying to find where that was communicated, and I couldn't find it. I got to find it and clip it. Some of you may have heard that. I know when. Please, if any of you remember what show that came up on, where the person on the JFF did indicate that it's a prerequisite, whether it's on a press conference or on a YouTube channel or in a regular media, but the person did say so, it's a prerequisite for the person to live in Jamaica. And as you can hear from the coach, he will not live in Jamaica. As he said, he didn't say he live in Jamaica. He said his role requires him to travel. And that's what's now being exposed by others, that his role is to travel. When them say you have to live in Jamaica, so you can't travel from Jamaica is what you're saying. Now, my view on this is, the coach lives in England. So if the coach lives in Jamaica, you have to ask yourself, well, how is he going to see talent? He keep talking about the talent on the island. He keep talking about all this talent, and he only spend about a week on the island. I don't know how you can see all this talent in about a week or 2 weeks on the island. When you were a part of FIFA, people, there's so much things that just frustrate me. It's amazing. When people make decisions or say things, which when you really scrutinizing them, they can't stand up to scrutiny. Yeah, I think Asaf call it on himself sometimes, but I can understand that, right? I can understand. He call it on himself sometimes by saying certain things. Asaf is just doing YouTube channel and enjoying money and not say certain things because he get people nervous and he says so. Especially since you have a friend, if you talk to Asaf, him just start losing mind because his view is that deliver night clutch, and I understand that. But Asaf was a brilliant runner, so if you get him credit too. But it's really interesting actually because me hear Maverick talk about somebody else, and he might talk about somebody else, and it was interesting the way he talk about that person there. You can't tell who him like or who him not like, right? You can't tell who Maverick like or who him not like, which is not good. Maverick, you have to be objective. You have to be objective, Maverick, because given the role that you play in society in Jamaica, you have to be objective. But this was on a sports commentary. He was talking about this. I was going to play it, but I said, no, I'm not play it because I don't want no copyright infringement from TVJ. So I'm not play it. But I'm just paraphrasing what he said, which is basically that the coach in Jamaica, how he's going to see the talent, how he's going to do the same thing after a while. Basically, is that okay? That's what he's basically saying. But then he start talking about the TB boss. I don't know what the TB boss is, and not tuberculosis. And you can hear him, he has an affinity and an affection for the TB boss. And how the TB boss going to be important for JPL and that sort of something. You never hear him call out the TB boss, giving negativity and all the toxicity that he provides to Jamaica and the environment. But him always dip on the TB boss side. No matter what him do, he make excuse for him. You're not objective, Maverick. Trust me, you're not objective. You're a smart man and you know better. And I understand we're in Jamaica where you live, you have to be very careful about certain things because I've been warned myself. But you're not objective. The man of conflict said the coach must. yeah. The coach, look, yes, exactly. Paul Watkins, yes, did say it. Heard him say it, and no, and wait. I heard him say on a program. Wait, first of all, we'll get to that anyway. I heard him say in Jamaica. I think that question came up to him again, and he said something about the coach has to travel. So all of a sudden, he start go back. Him go back. What him say? If I go back, what him say more than one time. So let me go to that. Actually, let me go to that. So, because the man of conflict did say that. So you remember that I came to this program and I said that Rudolph Speed says he's not going to be on YouTube anymore. I said the JFF. I didn't say Rudolph Speed. The JFF is not on YouTube anymore. That's what I was told, actually. And lo and behold, and in fact, he said he's going to take a year off because YouTubers are toxic. That's what he said. YouTubers are toxic. And the JFF is only going to deal with, or maybe him or JFF going to deal with only with traditional media, who, by the way, beat them at every turn. See Oral Tracy, yeah? Oral Tracy now stop beat the JFF. Oral Tracy, I mean, have it before. You see him? Now stop beat the JFF. So them chase Mason Green like vultures. Say them I talk about the whole thing with the coach nowadays. He not stop beat them. But they would jump on over Tracy's radio program, the FM station, and have their dialogue. They ain't holding him accountable. But them fees are the YouTubers. As them tell me, so the YouTubers, all YouTubers them together, only have 500 people coming in channel regularly. So basically, the inference that we don't matter. And that may be true. But we still gonna call you out. You ain't gonna stop us because we are fair. We call it like we see it. If it's good, we call it. If it's bad, we call it. We don't care, we just call it. So even if we have two people and two people that listen to it, it works. It works for us. We know we are done. Someone says, Corey said, Pochettino told the American media the same thing, that most of the players are in Europe, so he will be there. And that may make sense if you're scouting players. But is Poch going to scout people in the MLS? That's another question. Right? And he probably agree with them contractually. But I didn't hear the U.S. come out and say that he has to live in the U.S. Right? So that's the question. Is he going to spend time in MLS scouting players? You can spend time with the Football Association in Atlanta where they're building their complex, looking at their development, or is just going to be qualified for the World Cup? Now, I know what the coach says. He's going to live in a suitcase, but it doesn't say where. Everybody has someplace their headquarters where they're based. Is he based? He could live in Jamaica. He could be based in Jamaica and spend 300 days on the road. We understand all of that. You know, JFF not have no money to send nobody 300 on the road because people not fly coach. I'm fly business class or first class. So I don't know how that works. And I have no problem if I'm not saying there's a problem with him living where he wants to live in now. I'm saying the administration says that it's required the person live in Jamaica. Just like they said, and now come back on YouTube for a year. And lo and behold, I watch a program, I watched something yesterday and something pop up on me. Somebody sent me something. Because people send me things all the time, people. And guys, thank you for that. I said that earlier in the program. Send me things all the time. Them send me the man on a YouTube channel name what? Is it Reggae Boyz Forum or something like that? And he was on the channel, smiling, having fun, right? Talking really well. Now, I know what the person's problem with me is. Because whenever you're dealing with people in a certain way, and you don't seem like you're pressuring them, you're not asking difficult questions, you're not making them look a certain way in a public forum, they're fine with it, right? It's like how U.S. politicians are interviewed versus English politicians are interviewed. In the U.S., it's all cordial, it's like friendly, it's like being at the bar together, having fun, talking. There's no pressure on you. They're not asking difficult questions. They ask the most generic, ridiculous question. In the UK, though, which I enjoy, and it's not about beating, they're going to ask the question that should be asked, and they're going to make you uncomfortable. But the politicians accept that because that's the environment they operate in. So Kroenke, the comment that the requirements for him to live in the UK was on TVJ. They got the comment after the board meeting to ratify his appointment as head coach. That's was early August. Yeah. 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 I mean, I guess he's going to say he's on the road. So, hey. But I know I'd seen the person said it's a requirement. All of a sudden, that requirement changed. And that's what we talk about transparency. Yeah, I don't know if it's the truth I speak, but I'm going to call it like I see it, right? Man disavow me and say, if I go because I'm going to call it out. Look, I have no problem with anybody in the JFF now, even with the man of conflict. I know you must say, why you call him name now. Okay? I'm going to get vexed. Because he watch the program still now. You know what I'm saying? Like, because they have the JFF send either their spies or they have individuals watch a program. I'm telling you that because I know that. And they probably should. We talk about a lot of stuff here. But the problem that I have is this: you can't have it both ways. You can't want the flowery, easy questions, and when you get the hard one, push back, you don't want to talk about it. You can't keep talking about Kroenke, you talk about transparency. When transparency is an imperative for any organization to build trust, build comfort, trust allow you to generate income, trust allow you to advance your programs. And you're not building trust by doing that. Now, I didn't come here to beat the JFF today, but I thought it was important to talk about that because my whole program today, a lot of it's going to talk about how they can emulate Arsenal and Man City and connect the dots to do what they need to do. So I'm getting a call from God. God, good night. How you doing?
Yeah, wow. Good night. I can't comment on your something. I have something because my child.
Yeah,
my child don't use it.
You can't comment on it because it's not for kids. So if the kid is on there, no, but I'm just telling you that somehow there's a block on your apparatus. Whatever device you have, there's a block on it. It's not me. I just put up the program where it says you can't. It's not for kids because I was told we should put it. And if your daughter or your son or whoever uses it, and they're a certain age and you have a block on it, it doesn't work. So you have to use try another device and see what happens. Go use your TV. Well, if you have a Fire Stick, use a Fire Stick. Well, that doesn't work either. You can't really comment on that.
No, as long as I'm email, can I try comment on the laptop?
Right.
Try comment on the phone.
And it doesn't work either way?
It don't work. So I mean, like, we have to change the email because my daughter email tied to my email.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but big up yourself.
Yeah, man.
I see watch the couple shows. I'm like a tape on the Reggae Boyz and everything.
All right.
So I'm just call you. If you probably if you could have changed it, but you say you can't change it.
No, it can't change. I apologize for that. It can't change. I've been asked that like a number of times, not numerous, but a number of times before, and it's not me. It's YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. No problem.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah.
S Technique. I was just calling out what Maverick, it was on, to be frank, it was on JD show this Monday. We're talking about that. And then Maverick, because they were talking about what Maverick says, and I just basically says, Maverick should talk about what he wants to talk about. I have no problem with it. My problem was, if you say one thing, then come on, explain to the public why you change. You can't say A, and then it's B, and you're making some excuse for B. And you're making an excuse. When you come on and say, well, the coach is traveling a lot, you still haven't answered the question, are you going to live in Jamaica or not? Because you said they have to live in Jamaica. If the criteria change, the requirement change, indicate the requirement change. Don't play games with us. Don't treat us like we're fools and we're idiots. Secondly, when you said John Wall was reassigned because he had to work with the national team, that was nonsense. And I called you out on it. You don't like that. I call you out on conflict. You don't like that. I told you how Hargreaves played. You don't like that. I understand that. Then you know what? Don't come on my channel. Then if that's the way you feel, if you can't take the pressure, don't come. Because we're going to say it like it is, and you'll be able to answer these questions. If you're fair, if you're accountable, if you're excellent at what you do, if you're comfort in a environment where you're going to get fair treatment, but it may be difficult, it's a hot seat, then you come. If you don't think otherwise, don't come. I can live with that. But I saw you on a program. You say you weren't coming on YouTube for at least a year because we're toxic, and you came on YouTube. And a friend of mine made a bet with me. He said he'll be back on YouTube soon because he has to go on YouTube. That's who he is, and you proved them right. So anyway, we'll move on. Because my job I didn't come here to beat you tonight. Last but not least on that subject, before we get to the main point today, because I want to get this to 7 o'clock, was I said this before, people, and I've been waiting. The JFF came out and told us about the girls and their 3 games, 1 against France, 2 against South Africa. Brilliant. Love it. Great JFF. Under 14 won the Caribbean Championship, even though I think that's no longer our competitors, but that's fine. They won. JFF had a press conference right away. Brilliant, JFF. I heard Rudolph talking about things they do in the JPL and requiring coaches to have at least a B license, which he says a BX license. They're trying to make sure the fields in Jamaica have the right configuration so they can broadcast the games, make it work well. All these things are great things. Great things. So these accomplishments that you publish in the social media and various public environment, we love it. We want more of it. But let me say this. There's a boat coming. I still don't see the postmortem on the under 20. You can't have it both ways, people. You can't want to come out when things good and tell we, and we feel good about you and say you're great. When things go bad, you don't want to man up, show accountability, and come explain to us what transpired and what you do to fix it. You can't live so. You can't just want all the kudos and the flowers, and then when things don't go well, you can't stand up and say, you know what, no, take the beating too. That can't be right. And the traditional media not hold you accountable like they should. All they want to do are cussing sometimes, but then now bring out the things that they're supposed to bring them out in the right way. You can't do all these nice things, which we applaud and we appreciate, and it's a great thing, and we love you for it. I want you to continue to do better. We want to help you any way we can. But then when things not go right, what you do? You go hide. And you say YouTubers are negative and bad mind and all sort of something. Oh, that's right. Up to when under 20 done? When under 14 done? And you come out next day almost under 14 and you want to praise them, and they should be praised. They did well. But that's not their competition. Let me just say this again. That's no longer the competition. Look, people, let me say something. The JFF overall is doing well. It's not debatable, by the way, in the Caribbean. The JFF is doing well in the Caribbean. They're doing a number of things well. Trying to make the JPL a better league. They have moved the number ranking up the JPL up the ladder. They're trying to make sure they have the right coaching in place, starting off with at least the JPL with some minimum basic requirements and will increase it. They're trying to make sure all the coaches across the island, and you saw Bob's Green thing, whatever that yesterday, they have space for 500 people to get primary coaches. That's a great thing. They're trying to now do the fundamentals to improve the football. But having said that, JFF, when things don't go well, if you come out and man up, nobody will kill you, Huh? I'm still back in the days, Conrad. Nobody not kidding you. They must say, you know what? You have accountability. It'll create more trust. It'll create more transparency. But if you go hide, they're not going to trust you. Because only when people hide things, you can't trust people who hide things. And you don't seem to get that. And people talk and say, boy, they're not going to let them know everything about everything because them live over and all sort of something. That's always the fallback. That's like the prime minister playing victim when he have 24 bank account and how much company, how much $400 million orange in company them. I don't think that's all right. Can't all right. Right? I think it was what's his name? I heard in a program this morning says, which I find was an interesting statement, and digest that statement. He said, Trump is proud to be unmolested by enlightenment. I thought that's a brilliant statement. When I think about it, well, we keep going. Man is proud to be unmolested by enlightenment. Boy, that man has a way with words. I think his name is Dyson or whatever his name is, a professor at, I think it's Princeton. But I saw him on the View I saw the program this morning on the View. Maybe it was on YouTube, I don't know. But those use of those verbiage and those linkage, I find awesome, actually. Awesome. So let me go to the main topic today's discussion. Let me go to the same discussion, which is about how can Jamaica, as a footballing nation, learn from what was done at Man City in where they are today, given where they were, and what is the revival happening at Arsenal. So let's dive into the discussion a little bit. Yeah, well, yes, Drew Ross, he did get exposed, but he also tried to explain it away. I'm not sure he did the best job because he was very defensive, but he explained it away, which is he was trying to give her some love and she didn't want the love and she tried to expose him. I find it interesting that if you connect the dots, which is, I am not sure who's right. Was he trying to get into her space or was he just trying to be a nice person? He explained it away, but he was too defensive for it not to have really bothered him. So I don't know. Conrad say free Ravel. No, Conrad. Ravel need to free himself. Ravel need to free himself, actually. Ravel is part of the problem. For Ravel need to free himself. Because Ravel not free himself. I don't know what Ravel is doing, but Ravel is always having problems. If you're always having problems, then you're part of the problem, actually. So let's dive into the Man City. The whole Man City Arsenal revival, right? So if you think about it, there was a time when Man City were what we call perennial underachievers. They called the nearly men of English football. If anything go wrong, it would be for the Blue have a Manchester, but City could be the only side in England who one season in 1936-37 won, and then the next season got relegated. They were just not a consistently good team. Now, Sheik Mansour from the Middle East, and you know how that works with those people who have money to burn, took over in 2008 and has completely transformed the area where Man City is in Manchester and the team. It was basically a mid-table team. If you remember the team with Mark Hughes and all those players, a mid-table team before he took over. But just like you saw with Chelsea, with Abramovich, he made a lot of significant financial investment and was able to turn the whole thing around, right? But he had help. His impact is clear, but it's not just about the money. His vision had been critical in pushing City towards sustained success, both in the Premier League and Europe. And even though he invested a ton of money, some appear to be legal. They now have 113 charges. Some appear to be illegal, given the hacking that was done on their account and what they said. They camouflage the source of funds, but they still spend a lot of money. He had help. So if you think about how that works, and if you look at my thumbnail that I put out, let me pull this up. But he had help. It wasn't just about Mansour. It wasn't just about the people, the money that he spent. There was more to his success than just that, right? Now, what I have here, this is the Sheik right here. This is Pep, who everybody knows. But this is somebody a lot of people may not know, who is Txiki, who was a player, a really good football player, Spanish international, worked as a commentator in television for a while. Became director of football at Barcelona in 2003. And you can remember those Pep years. He was there during the Pep years. And then in 2010, when the Sheik started showing in the cash, he left to go to Man City. Bless up float management. Bless up Jason Gunnar. So he's been there since 2010. Right? Since I said no, 2010. He joined as director of football in 2012. Sorry. Left Barcelona in 2010. Joined as director of football. In 2012, and he's been exceptional. Because remember, they won Premier League title with Mancini and the Spanish coach, I don't know why his name is slipping me, before Pep came on board, right? Pellegrini. So it wasn't as if they were an unsuccessful team. And if you remember, the first person they brought was that Brazilian Robinho. And you ask why he went to Man City, because he's probably get paid money above the board and below the board. But he got paid a lot of money to go there. The Robinho who got in trouble later. And it was in Italy. And if you think about Txiki, he's responsible for bringing in players such as when Sterling came before Pep got there. He brought in players like De Bruyne, Ruben Diaz, Haaland, all those players you see nowadays. Txiki is there. Even though Pep is there, and Txiki is the one who's doing the work behind the scene, just like Eddie was doing for Arsenal, which we talk about. So look at where Man City was, a mid-table team, and where they are today. You can say, well, it's the money, it's the money, it's the money. And I would disagree to say money is important, and yes, money helps, but you need three basic components for success, and those three evident between Arsenal, which I'll talk about too, and Man City. Which is you do need the money. It's an imperative because you need money. This is not America, frankly. You don't really need the money that much in America in terms of building a team and doing really well because it's a social construct in terms of how finances work in the U.S. Even though it's a capitalist system, in their sports team, it's social. Everybody has to make money. Nobody loses money. And the worst team this year can be the best team next year. That doesn't happen in Europe. It's all about who has the money, even though they're trying to use FFP to help manage some of that. But if you're way ahead in the scheme of things, and can generate the revenues, it doesn't work. In the US, you can only spend what you make. But in the US, most people make very, very similar money. So it equitizes everything, right? It's a more egalitarian system. That's not the way it works in Europe. Man U commercial activities is 100 times more than, for example, say Ipswich. So Ipswich will never catch up anytime soon. Unless they have even if they bring in an owner who's very, very rich, like I see what Newcastle is doing, it makes it very, very difficult the way they have it set up, which is what the big six have done. But so you have the owner who is focused, who has the money, who has the know-how, in some respect, in terms of hiring good people. He brought in Txiki, who is the man behind the scenes making the acquisitions and the decisions about player and player movement. Obviously, I'm sure Pep has input. So you have those two, Mansour and Txiki, and they did extremely well, but they couldn't win the Champions League. So look at where they were called the noisy neighbors by Ferguson, but the noisy neighbors have really replaced them and is now trying to erase all of Ferguson's accomplishment in terms of number of titles, who is the best manager in England, the best manager globally. Pep is really destroying Man U in a sense, and it's hard for those Man U fans who've been there for a while that realize that, you know what, the guards have changed and it may never be the same anytime soon until maybe Pep leaves or whatever. So you have the owner who's money. Nitro is saying money and Pep. No, they won before Pep. In fact, if Pep worked for Abramovich, he may have fired him because he didn't win the Champions League in his first 3 years. So you can't say just money and Pep. Txiki is as important as Pep to Man City and as important as the owner. Given, they spent a lot of money in their early years, but so did Everton. So has Man U. What does Everton have to show for it except almost going bankrupt and came buying anybody and violating FFP? What does Man U have to show for it? They have unlimited money and they're still struggling, and they at no time soon is going to win the Premier League. Maybe not in my lifetime going forward. So what Jason Gunnar is saying is that part of the model that City has is they buy other clubs in other parts of the world. They buy players with potential. They park them there. If they get good enough to be in their team, they'll bring them over. And they can act like it's transaction. They can buy them for reduced prices. They have found a way. People think that people in the Middle East are just don't have any sense and they waste money and they do X, Y, Z. In some instances, that's true. But most of them are educated in the Western world. They go to American colleges, some of the best colleges. They've been educated just like how anyone else is educated. They're just as smart. They may just have so much money, they can afford to look like they're wasting it, but there's a means to the end. At some point, Mansour will recoup his investment on City. In fact, he may have done so already in terms of the valuation of City. Yeah, but it's not, when you say the money, Nitro, here's what people are failing to realize. It's their commercial revenues, which is now paying. In fact, this year, they had a net positive spend. Maybe them, Liverpool, and maybe one or two more teams. But most teams have a net negative spend. Because they have now turned the corner. You have to spend to earn. So they spend big first. Now they have settled back and have a very settled team. They can sell players. The academy, by the way, they have a wonderful academy. And you can see the Sanchos, the Palmers of the world coming through the academy, doing well. The Job of the world comes through the academy. The Lewis of the world comes through the academy. You see the academy now producing. And they can sell a Palmer who play a few games with them for 40 mil. Doesn't happen. So they have a system where they invested, unlike Chelsea, who did the same thing that they did, but sometimes squandered a couple of money. But Chelsea had a similar model on Abramovich, except it's a little bit more volatile because he just fired coaches no matter how good they were. Bless up Paper Plate. Thanks for joining. Appreciate it, people. I'm not hitting like the button. People, don't just hear me some miserable, man. Don't hit the like button and start. I mean, I tell you, this is like pulling teeth. Hit the like button, man. It's not killing for like the like button. Okay, if you didn't like it, you wouldn't be here. Except I saw somebody yesterday saying I was talking foolishness, and he was in the channel. Let me say this, people, before I go further. And somebody say, Kroenke, don't say this. And by now, you guys should understand who I am, and my friends will tell you who I am. If you come to the channel and you think I'm talking foolishness, my question is going to be, why are you here? I don't listen to anybody talking foolishness. I turn them off. I think you should do the same thing. Do I want subscribers? Yes. Do I want likes? Yes. But I'm telling you, for your own good. If you listen to any program, if any politician, any program, any analyst, any YouTuber, and they're talking foolishness, you're counteracting your own perspective when you say, are you still listening to them for their whole show? It's counterintuitive. So don't listen to them. That's all I have to say. And somebody, I forgot what the person was saying that yesterday. You don't know football, you're talking foolishness, but he's there listening to me. Why? Don't do that. So CC is saying, Kroenke, Chelsea model work for trophies and the model is the same as you said. It's just we fire people. No. Chelsea models work, but Chelsea did a lot of things. Some things were illegal and threw a ton of money of it. And it's never self-sustaining at Chelsea. The difference between Man City and you, Chelsea, theirs now look like it's a much more self-sustaining model. Yours, I don't know what it is, because Abramovich had a lot of money he got illicitly. So he just spent it because he didn't really care. It wasn't his money anyway. I think other people, when it's their money, like American owners, they don't intend to lose money. They don't get involved in English football like Kroenkes lose money. They get to make money through the appreciation of the asset, meaning the asset, they may not get cash out, but the asset value is going up. Look at Dallas Cowboy, the most valued franchise in sports. They were $10 billion. What did what's his name buy them for? In the late 80s, I think it was. A few $100 million. That's the return people want on the investment. That's why I'm a little surprised about Chelsea, CC, given that they're venture capitalists who owns them. I don't know where they're going to make back their return on the investment, given what they're spending. But they're smart guys. They'll figure it out. So if you notice, Mansour is the owner. That's equivalent to, here's my analogy, to Ricketts, for example, for the Reggae Boyz. Txiki is the technical director. Now, to me, that's like two persons for the Reggae Boyz, or for Jamaica football. Both the technical committee head and actually the technical director, who is Wendell Downswell. So that's both Rudolph and Downswell, who fit to me in the technical director role. One is responsible for sort of oversight, hiring coaches, doing all that. One is responsible for the process you're going to put on the field, talent evaluation, talent identification, how the football, what we play in terms of style of play. Well, I don't know why I went there, style of play. Okay, whatever. Something in that vein. They're responsible for those things, right? And then you have the coach. Now for Man City, and then you have the money. So all those four things work in tandem. The owner going to provide the resources and hire the right people. The technical director is going to make sure we have the right environment and we get the right players. and the coach is going to develop and mold those players. So if you think about it, you have the leadership, you have strategy, you have vision, and you have execution. So he bought the Cowboys for 140. I thought it was a couple hundred, and he's now worth 10 billion. You know what the return is on that, people? Damn. And I did something wrong in my life. That's crazy. And he's worth 10 billion. That's crazy return. Crazy return on 140 million. And probably some of that is probably not even his money. Probably borrowed it to make that money. And all that he made after that is his money, frankly. He probably borrowed about 140 and he took other people's money. That's how it works, people. You borrow money to make money off it. Don't use your own money sometimes. Amazing how that works. But Jamaica with the right vision. Look, in Manchester City, they built the right ecosystem. They built what is important, a sustainable model. You hear we talk about this environment all the time about the problem that we have, which is when we're trying to build a national team and we're trying to source the national team, to put together a national team, we're scrambling to ask players who may not have born in Jamaica to fit in. And there's nothing wrong with that strategy in terms of that, but you have to develop the local players too. You want the largest pool to pull from. You don't want to go ask somebody, do you want to switch nationality? That's their prerogative. They want to, and you should welcome them. But you have to make sure holistically, those who qualify to play for the country, you have situated them, give them the tools, give them the infrastructure, give them the coaching, give them the resources to be able to play at the level required to compete on the global stage. So you have the right ecosystem, right sustainable model, the right investments, the right vision, the right strategy. It'd be amazing how that work. Now, you can say, well, Kroenke, that don't work for Jamaica because they can't afford it financially. But it's not, but they're doing some things now, which I'm proud of, actually, and I'm happy with. They're getting a little bit of money in, Adidas money, Reggae Boyz money coming in, and look like they're doing reinvesting. They have realized, based on the program that they did with FIFA, the Talent Development Ecosystem Program, where they need to ensure they have a process to identify the talent. Well, first of all, build out the coaching fraternity and the coaching program and put people who are coaching from grassroots all the way to the senior team through the entirety of the process. You hear me talk about coaching yesterday to make sure they have the requisite skill set, both academically and practically, to coach the kids and coach the teenagers and coach the senior players. That's an imperative. And the JFF, to their credit, is moving down that path. They're doing some of this. And Rudolph got to get some credit for it. A lot of credit for it, because I think Rudolph has all this vision. So Rudolph does some good things, but Rudolph can't take criticism. Him skin thin. Can't take it. He can't take beating. What him call beating? I'm already beaten. They call it the truth. Right? Rudolph can't take it. But Rudolph actually has a brain and does use it sometime and try to make the right decision. Now, Rudolph and the boss, TB, because I know TBs, right? The toxic boss, always in conflict because Rudolph believes in rules and regulation and toxic boss don't believe in anything. He believe in bullying people. And he believe that a C license from Malta, which is not a drink, he said that yesterday, a license for Jamaica, give him credit for. Hey, Rudolph, hold him to the fire. Make him get the license. And everybody working with the license. You're trying to create standards, Rudolph, so I support you on that. May you not agree going forward on enough things, and you may not like me and like you to us anymore, but me give the credit when you deserve it. And when you don't deserve it, I'll call you out. And if you don't like it, what can I say? Tough. So let's shift to Arsenal a little bit. Let's talk about Man City. Let's shift to Arsenal. Unlike Man City, Arsenal had a more challenging road recently, given where they were and where they are. If you remember, when Stan Kroenke bought Arsenal way back in early 2000s, subsequent to them winning the title, he made certain promises. We moved to the Emirates. He had Wenger as the manager. Wenger is an economist who's frugal by nature, and he didn't like to spend money, right? He didn't like to spend money. Yes, of course, I call him the TB boss. You know, like tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is a disease. Well, he's a toxic boss. So Wenger, hey, we Max. Welcome. Hey, we Max, me call you out earlier, you know. Me call you out, and you can't call me number, you have to say your daughter asleep, so you can't call me number. Me not take enough call this evening because I had some interesting challenges before I start the show that I had to push it back. who have a Malta license, you know the man, taxi boss must have Malta license. Because I'm talking about him a great football coach and he can't have the basic license, right? He might not even have a C license. He might not even have a D's done, he might not have a D license. Or a D license, kind of coach at night. But anyway, different story for different day. So the whole, but WeMax, I call it WeMax. Come here, me digress a little bit from Arsenal, come back to Arsenal. I call up Tracy this morning, WeMax. I agree with you. Nobody can tell WeMax what we talk about, so we don't have to restrict nobody what we talk about. And we shouldn't be afraid that people are going to hear what we're saying. Because you know what? It's healthy. Whether it's we criticizing a play, if we're criticizing Low, are we complimenting Low? If we're criticizing Mason Green, are we complimenting Mason Greenwood? If we're criticizing the JFF, compliment JFF, we should talk about it in public domain. Because nothing is secret nowadays, people. Nothing is secret nowadays, people. So we shouldn't hide. We should not try to tackle the difficult subjects and hide from them. No, talk about them. Will it make some of us concerned and think it'll have negative repercussions? Yeah, it may. But I don't think that should stop us from talking about it. So yes, Max, maybe I can agree with you about the what I don't agree with Maverick is that Maverick is not as objective as he say he is. Because Maverick now call out toxic boss about nothing. Him call out other people. Him support toxic boss no matter what him do. He make excuse for him. That's how he is. No, the person is toxic. That's not how he is. It's not okay to be toxic. But now call him out. He make excuse for him and say him good for the football. No, he's good for himself. That's what he's good for. But anyway, we'll keep going. So let's go back to Arsenal. Before I digress here. The thing about Arsenal is this or that. We're in a bad place. Wenger, and here's another thing, people, because I'm gonna bring all these things together. When Arsenal wasn't doing well, it was toxic with fans, right? We did well for a lot of time. We won the double. We won, went unbeaten. We're doing really well. Things start turning when Abramovich money came into play. We were no longer Man U's competition. Man U competition became Chelsea. Arsenal fans were used to winning and competing. Champions League, no longer Champions League. You went and hired Emery. It didn't work out. I think language barrier was a big thing because Emery is a big coach. And you can see that he does that Villa and he's turned Villa around. But Stan Kroenke didn't want to spend money because he didn't have full ownership. And he was fighting with this Russian, thank God, him win. I tell you, Star Cover Club, probably not, whatever now. But he was fighting with this Russian, and his name slips me. Yusamov, I think his name is, who then went with Ms. Mishuri to Everton and see what they did at Everton. But Kroenke won because people in England who were involved around the club didn't want some Russian ownership because they weren't concerned about where the money came from, which is about integrity and the right decision to make. And some people in Arsenal were saying they don't care, they want Yusamov money. We didn't take Yusamov money. We see how this goes. Now, what happened was Stan Kroenke, when he became owner, at some point he gave Josh Kroenke, because he has all these sports team to run Arsenal, and they started investing money in the club. When Arteta took over, they brought in Edu. You look at the change people want to change entail. So Josh now became the new owner. Think about him as Mansour coming in. The new Txiki was Edu, and the new coach was Arteta, similar to Pep. What are the ingredients we have there? We have money, because Arsenal started investing a lot of money. We have owners who are interested in the club and create the environment and the situation for the team to be successful. We have Edu come in with his various contacts, and we have doing business to help acquire players. You can see the Gabriels of the world. You can see the Martinellis of the world. You can see the Odegaards of the world. And then we have Arteta come in, who is a Pep disciple, who leveraged off his knowledge that he had a Pep, who Pep respected, and I was giving credit for, and he helped develop the players. Again, the construct is similar to Man City, but it may not appear that way. I disagree with you, Max City, that Edu hasn't done a great job. I disagree with you. The analogy that you should have with Arsenal, if you don't want to use Man City since they started being good from like 2011, 2010, is Man U. Is Man U. What has Man U done since Ferguson left? Do they have any player that you would bring into the Arsenal team from Man U? Any player? Even Fernandes? Any player? Then you stop there. You look at our team, because you're saying he's done a good job. Look at the goalkeeper we brought in. We bought Ramsdale and say, you know what, Ramsdale, you're good, but you're not good enough. You make too much mistake. You got to go. So we're doing like Pep. I must say they have no heart when it comes to player. It's all about the club. And they're going to make tough decisions. They made some mistakes, right? They buy the kid who went back to Portugal on loan, the 10, his name is eluding me now, Vieira. They bought Ramsdale. So they bought Vieira, got rid of him. Bought Ramsdale, got rid of him. There are a few players they have bought who have not worked out. But look who have worked out. The entire back line. The entire back line, all 7 of them. Whether it's Tomiyasu, Ben White, Timber, Gabriel, Saliba. I think Calafiori would work out. Maybe Zinchenko, one could say, it's a little bit of struggle there. But it's worked. Did they overpay for Declan Rice? Yes, but City wanted him too. They probably would have played 80 versus 100. They bought Marino. We'll see how he does. They bought Odegaard. Right? No. If you look how we have built the team. And here's another thing, people, which is interesting. So I'm going to bring it back to the YouTubers. So when Robbie started AFTV in 2012 and during the Wenger years after that, it was toxic. That's how Troops and those guys made their names. It was toxic. Troops and a bunch of the other players, one of them who know persons. And Robbie have turned over his staff somewhat, have a younger team now. But it was toxic. And Gary Neville and what's his name from TalkSport? Simon Jordan. They would say AFTV have benefited from all the trouble of Arsenal. They were just negative. They beat the club. Sound like somebody who we know, right? Arsenal doing poor, and people like Gary Neville always saying AFTV is toxic because they call out things not going well at the club, and fans were irate, right? Fans were irate, and even some fans hated AFTV because they said they were killing the club, blah blah blah, whatever. And people like Simon Jordan trying to denigrate Robbie and his people, treat them really poorly, and Gary Neville and all of that. They're saying AFTV is toxic, blah, blah, whatever. Because they're the new kids on the block. Right? And he's starting something else. Now, if you notice nowadays, you see Robbie and his people friendly up with Edu, friendly up with Arsenal, go to all Arsenal event, have official media pass. It's all hunky-dory. And the channel keeps growing even though it's positive environment. Because Arsenal is doing well, and they report on how well they're doing. The only person can consider it negative in some respects is Turkish, but Turkish just want to win. Right? AFTV is now huge, as you're saying, Conrad. Robbie's been asked to speak in every single environment that you can think of. They're doing wonderfully well because what they did was, like what we're trying to do as YouTubers, is report on what is taking place and also provide opinions on that. So you've seen the growth of AFTV, which started from nothing. Where people were telling Robbie, why are you outside the stadium? Why are you asking questions? We don't talk to you. But he persevered, and he has done really well. And at one point, he was deemed toxic. Now that toxicity has gone because you know what? The team is doing well. They're reporting on the team, and they're giving the team credit. The team has done well. In fact, I think some people say, like people have said to me, which is that I've gotten soft on Lowe and soft on Rudolph and others in there. I don't Rudolph believe that. And soft on the JFF. Is that now people are saying Robbie and his team are sometimes soft on Arsenal when things are not going as well as they should, and soft on Arteta because now they have access, right? Arsenal give them access because everything is hunky-dory. We'll see if things change if they give them the same access. Point I'm trying to make is same relationship we have the JFF now. You do well, you get lauded. You don't do well, we got to call you out. You don't like it? Hey, can't help you. Jay's going to say, no, all the players Jordan never worked for earning a TV. Yeah, and a lot of those commentators on AFTV are getting jobs. You see them on Sky Sports, you see them on Talk Sports. They're everywhere. They have their own channel. They have thousands of views. AFTV is huge. More power to you, Robbie. Love what you're doing. Love where you're going. Sometimes I'll criticize you for certain things because sometimes you give some ratings. I scratch my head and say, what game you're watching? But at the same time, brother, keep it up. I hope you grow to be as huge as the Sky TVs of the world. And it's possible. Keep doing what you're doing. You keep evolving every year. You keep growing every year. You keep getting better every year. It's a wonderful thing, and we love it and want to see more of it. That's what can happen on YouTube because the new media and probably the better media. Now go back to Arsenal and Jamaica. So Edu came as technical director. He's worked with Arteta. They have done a wonderful job of growing Arsenal. Now Arsenal is competing for the top 4 and doing really, really well. Apart from Sunday. We should have won that game. So how do these strategies from Man City and Arsenal apply to the Reggae Boyz, right? It's clear that leadership and long-term planning are crucial, for you to be successful. Jamaica, as I said before, Jamaica's on the rise. It's probably the best team in the Caribbean and also the best positioned team in the Caribbean, frankly. But I do still think we're missing that what I call a coherent vision. Right? City build the infrastructure from the ground up with clear focus on developing young talent and buying good talent. Arsenal, who have gone through a very challenging period, are very focused on developing talent, though Arteta don't give his academy players enough time, but buying young talent. You look at the Arsenal team and how young they are. There's nobody in the back line over 28, as far as I know. Nope, none over 28. In fact, nobody in the back line, including goalkeeper, 28. The only seasoned players they have are the 2 CDMs. Well, 2 of the 3 CDMs. All the forward line is young. So they can have another 6, 7, 8 years from the entire team that they have today, apart from maybe 2 or 3 players. And they're playing at the top of their game, at the top of the sport. So that's the combination. That's the thing about getting quality, and it's sustainable quality. You have a vision, you have a strategy, you deploy that vision and strategy, you execute against it, you have positive outcome. Then they had leadership and vision, which they execute against. They had investment in youth and infrastructure, which they which they execute against. And they had the tactical and strategic planning, which is all about development of players, which is where Arteta and Pep come in, and they execute against that. Even though those 2 teams are rival on the pitch, the lessons we can learn from leadership are invaluable, people. You need leaders. You hear me and Speed have discussions before, and I keep pushing back on him and also about Chung, which is, have you guys turned over the talent in the JFF? What is the technical director of the JFF? Not Speed role for the football. What has he done? What's his resume? What can he put his hand on and be lauded about? He's been in the role for years. Has the football developed? Has the football changed? Has the people changed? Are the players changing? Do we see anything changing? Do we have a style of play? Do we have a system of play? What do we have? Still not there. Yes, the JFF is making significant progress from where it was before COVID to now and during COVID to now. Very, very good progress. And Arsenal love fest and looking over Man City fence. Yes, here's the thing about that. This is the point I'm trying to make here. Leverage off those who have been there, done it, and execute against it. Arsenal have somewhat followed the Man City model. Josh Kroenke came in, that's Mansour. Edu came in, that's Txiki. Arteta came in, that's Pep. That's what you should do. People have been there, done it. Why recreate the wheel? So, yes, we look over the fence every single day. We almost kicked on the fence on Sunday. The referee boarded up for us. We couldn't stop the referee. It's like the police. The police stopped us, but they can't keep us down. Jason's going to try it with Margot, but they tried better him, so he left. Conventional media will never respect YouTubers. They just try to use them. Yeah. Mark Goldberg is doing well. I was looking at his channel the other day. He had 140,000 views for the Man City game. That was very early in the process. So, no, Mark Goldberg is doing well. I don't get that comment by Conrad. He says, what about Spain and Belgium? Because these entities are multi-million-dollar business who can hire best. No. I have said, you hear me talk CC on this channel about Spain. I think Speed said they were trying to leverage off Belgium. Uruguay is probably not a country you should think about, but football, there's an institution. But I'm going to give, it's the model CC. It doesn't mean that you have all the money. It's the model. It is the people. It's not just for the money. It's money. It's people. It's people. It's people. It's people. You have the right people in the right seat, making the right decision. Even about raising money. Do have people with the influence, who have the gravitas, the communication skill, the deductive reasoning to help me go out and source revenue that I can leverage to then invest in my football. So when you make the decisions, you got to have the people in the seat to make it. Most companies will tell you the most important part of a company is probably not just the product, sometimes not in the product, it's management who can go out and source the product to go sell the product. If you have the right coach, the right technical director, the right leaders, and they can generate the revenues, they can identify talent and bring them in. They can figure out what we need to do to build up the infrastructure, build up the resources, build up the whole way we play football. We may end up with a product which is sustainable, which is going to help us for the long term. So I don't think that's debatable. But you have to be willing to do that. You have to be willing to make tough decisions. Right? Just like how here's what funny people. You see, like how we see how teams are ruthless with players. Some people are just ruthless with executives, right? You bring an executive in, you give him a 3-year contract, 4-year contract. You may not even have a contract if he's employed at will. If it doesn't work out, you're like, you know what? It's not working. Gotta find somebody else. Gotta go. Now, sometimes there's monetary implications for that, right? If you have a contract, then it may be a problem. If you fire them, you may have to pay for them. That's why the JFA was glad Hagrimson left, because they think they wouldn't have to pay him. When if they waited a bit longer, they would have got some money out of Ireland. That's another story. Jamaica probably got lucky with Hagrimson leaving and McLaren coming in. We'll see at the end of the day, but I think Hagrimson made a bad decision. See, say Kroenke, we are willing to do right now. It's very unsustainable. It's a model to qualify every 20 plus years. No, I don't think that's the strategy, CC. I think what we're doing today is, look, I think there's a combination that we need to do today and going forward. So what's the combination? People, please hit the like button while you're here. Here's a combination, people. One is we keep sourcing players from wherever in the world those players are who have Jamaican citizenship. Source the best players. Two is, though, just as important, maybe even more important, we get resources to build out infrastructure in Jamaica. We get coaches to have their qualification and practical experience. And we identify the players with the raw talent to mold into developing, become excellent players, to then be able to get them to play in the best leagues in the world, generate resources for those people who sell them, and also be able to leverage that resource to invest back in the country, so it becomes a more sustainable model, just like other countries do. Right? That's an imperative. That's important. That's imperative. So I would think that going forward, and look, as I said before, the JFF look like they're doing a better job than they were before. And some of it has to do with money. They have more money now, so they can do more things. We don't have money, but I don't think they've done the best job or did the best job previously in how they engage in our public. I was extremely pleased to see the crowd at the stadium the last game, even though as you don't know, come late at the game. I don't know why not do that. And go late for no one funeral, as people would say. Nonetheless, the crowd was a good crowd at the stadium, which will help the JFF. I'm sure they probably have a lot of free tickets, but to generate revenues, to invest back in the football. Right? They're getting money from different sources now. And I think that we shouldn't have any restrictions on players if they have citizenship to play for the country. But there got to be a concerted effort made to invest in football locally, to allow those kids to have the same opportunities as other kids, even though they may not have the same level of resources. And at some point, it will hopefully get to a point where everybody's have an equal playing field, which is hard to get to, given when you live in industrialized countries, how much resources they have and how much expertise they have there. But at a minimum, I see the JFF trying to build out the coaching fraternity and allow the coaches to be educated and informed. We've had this discussion back and forth about, does a license make you a good coach? And we can debate that forever. But everything I look at, every region I look at, every continent I look at, everybody's focused on their coaching programs. That the coaches with the right license, the right development, the right structure, the right information, they develop better players. And that's an imperative. So, and I think Europe is a good place to leverage, given the best football is played in Europe. That you look at what UEFA is doing. That's what CONCACAF should be doing. I'm sure that's what they have done. They have their own processing system. There's things to be learned there. And you leverage off, and what FIFA is doing, you leverage off what they're providing you, what you can get from them to help inform your view about what you do in the country, about developing the program. So plaudits to the JFF about trying to develop the coaching, improve the infrastructure, improve the JPL, make the league more professional, make the league go up the ranking, just like how we want the rankings to go up for the national team. But at the same time, we can't abandon trying to source players outside Jamaica, just like we can't abandon local players we're trying to develop and trying to get to the national team. Karen says, send those people in Jamaica and bro God gone with the money. Damn. No, I'm not gonna say that, bro. I'm not. You can't. People, let me just say this: Caribbean rivers, you can't do that. Never accuse someone of something unless you have proof. Right? No matter what on the surface may appear to be. So if the man has 50 bank accounts and 10 companies, until someone come up with empirical, which is factual evidence that they have done something illegal, don't accuse them. Don't do that. Not a good thing. I don't support that. I'm going to tell you the truth. I understand the concern, understand what it looks like on the surface, but wait till the evidence come out. My concern about Jamaica about evidence is sometimes evidence gets suppressed. Because in Jamaica, unlike some other countries, especially in countries like the US, politicians don't go to jail. People do financial services wrong. They always put on some lowly person and no senior person go to jail because they're all in the same circle. So even look in the US, the senator from New Jersey, for example, found guilty of taking bribes. He's going to jail. In New York, see Mayor Adams, look like his old, everybody in his organization, they're getting accused of something. If you look at places like Trenton in New Jersey, people don't play in these environments when it comes to public funds and how you spend public funds and taking bribes and misusing funds. You pay for that. In the Caribbean, you don't. Not only Jamaica, you don't. You find ways to. I know John, who was the judge, who was Paul and Peter, and all of a sudden, people lose interest and it goes away. Goes away. She said, we can't abandon sourcing players or developing players ever. Once the JPL start getting to CONCACAF Champions League, players will be better. No, the players will be better when we start at the grassroots teaching players the right way to play. It's not about the CONCACAF. I say Caribbean, CONCACAF is not Caribbean, it's a region. It's about developing players. I think it's a 10-year period, I think. The JFF get it right and do it right and implement it right and don't take any shortcuts. It's a 10-year process whereby you invest in infrastructure, you invest in the coaches, they get accredited, they get the experience on the field, they develop the players, you put together the infrastructure that you're supposed to have, and you execute the process, and you'll be surprised how it starts showing. It's going to take 10 years for it to show meaningful, sustainable results. You may have blipped along the way where you do well, but what you don't want to do is regress. You want continuous improvement and continuous positive outcome and sustainable outcome. So Claudine said, Kroenke, where there's smoke, there's fire. Yeah, but you gotta make sure you see the fire first. You can't call it the fire until you see the fire now. Maybe the fire had burnt out already, and you're just getting the smoke. So I don't disagree with the concept, but I'm not gonna call anybody a thief or that they steal something until I have empirical evidence, factual evidence to substantiate that they are. CC, Kroenke, the president of the league playing and you need to quality. No, CC, we're on the same page, CC. All these things work in tandem, right? What I'm talking about is if you have a league now, CC, and these players are playing in the league and they go to play Cincinnati and get battered, it's not helping you. You should still do it because you still got to play the football and it's a continuum. I'm saying when you want to see true positive results where players are going to Man City and Man U and Chelsea straight from Jamaica, like you see Whispers done, and get into their academies and then translate to the national team, to the senior team, you want that to be a continuous flow. Or they may not go to England, they may go to League One or go to MLS, right? But you want that continuous flow where you have a volume of talent going to the pipeline. No one says you should stop the JPL. That's what the JFF is doing. They're trying to get B-license in JPL. So they're not saying we're going to fix the infrastructure, we're going to fix it at grassroots level, I'm going to wait 10 years. It's a continuum. It can work in tandem. They can work simultaneously. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. So I understand what you're saying, CC, but we're both on the same page. We're both on the same page. We're not on the same page. I only have 11 minutes, people. You can call if you want before I close out the program. Because I see I'm needed someplace. I know I started 50 minutes late, but something came up, which I have to go tend to when we're done this. So DJ Squid said, Kroenke live, but according to what you said about accusing why every Jamaican Prime Minister comes out of Parliament way richer than way for it. Yeah, and look, DJ Exquisite, we're not saying something has been done inappropriately. No, we're not saying that now. What we're saying is don't make the accusation until it materializes into something that should be accused. If you accuse me of doing something you have no evidence, that's not a good thing. And in fact, people, let me say this. I should say this. I forgot about this. Anytime people start lie up on people, you should have concern. And people start telling them have sued for defamation. I don't know how public figures want to sue for defamation anyway. If you're the prime minister of any country or president of any country, what defamation? You're subject to anything people say. They can call fire in a crowded theater, but they can say you look like corruption. I go on. Hey, that's defamation. They're just making an expression. Allegedly, they're not saying you're corrupt. I don't know how I never hear that in the US, for example, where a president is saying people being libelous and you're going to sue them and you're going to defame them and go through the law. You have something to hide. You must have something to hide if you're going with it. And when you made a statement about, I gave everything that was legally required. I mentioned this yesterday. That's a concern for me. When you start talking about legally required, that's a concern for me. That means you're a lie up. When you start lie up, that's like a transparency. People get concerned. Good evening.
Good evening, Kroenke. Yeah, as I said, Kroenke, when it comes down to leadership, maybe the country has a leadership problem with respect to even transparency, You hear me?
There's none. There ain't no transparency.
So, yeah.
Transparency is a bad wait. You know, see me and Rudolph, I was arguing about transparency. Man was accused me, Kroenke, you're talking about transparency. It's a bad word in Jamaica.
It seeps through every level, because even when you just touched on the prime minister, and I think the whole defamation thing. Like, first of all, for example, if the opposition leader was to become prime minister and he acquired some amount of wealth, people would understand, because we know he owns a business, we know he's a lawyer, we know he has he's a partner, I think, with a law firm. But the issue is the current sitting prime minister is a career politician. So we don't know.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem, CC. I mentioned that earlier, CC, that's the problem.
Yeah,
when you're a career politician, you decide, people, let me just say, CC, when you're a career politician, you decide that you're going to be poor. Let me say that again. When you're a career politician, you have said, I'm going to be poor for the rest of my life, but I'm going to do the people's work. I'm going to do, as a rich guy, Goldman Sachs once said, I'm going to do God's work. But he made 70 million in 1 year. He's doing God's work. Well, you're really doing God's work in this case, except it's a public good. So don't expect to make no money out of it. Go ahead, CC, sorry.
Yes, yeah. So that I think that is the elephant in the room, Kroenke, that a lot of persons don't want to address. He's a career politician.
Yeah.
So the fact that you're a career politician and it's showing up that you have all of this wealth, or generated all of this wealth through your career, how did it come by? We just want to know, how did this come by? Is it through your wife? Because your wife is not a career politician. So maybe if you came and said through your union, you have acquired XYZ, that's a different thing, because the wife is not a career politician. So I could
but the wife being Speaker of the House and you have the Prime Minister, that's a conflict. That should never occur.
And that's the next thing. That's why, and that is why I say it's like these people think they're above reproach to the point where
they're above the law. They're above the law. They're above the law.
Because even Kroenke, they're coming to say that they're going to clamp down on misinformation on social media. Like, who decides which information is misinformation?
Yeah, I don't know what that means, actually. They're trying to then become a dictatorship.
Exactly, because they're like Muslim people. If somebody comes up and questions something, if a person poses a question, will that be misinformation?
Yeah, like, I don't understand that either.
What exactly is misinformation, and who gives you how did you arrive at being an authority? Because this to me comes off like, for example, I think in some countries in the world, you can't use the internet freely. You probably need a VPN to do certain things.
Yep.
So is it Jamaica is going to become that type of country where I can't make a statement, I can't come on YouTube and say, yo, whatever, if I'm having a political channel and state that, boy, it seems like to me something smells fishy. This don't smells right based on the situation with the Prime Minister. This just don't smell.
Hey, the football segment done. So if you want to leave, you can leave. Football segment that we talk politics, because we're not restrict ourselves, because it's all connected. It's all connected in some way, shape, or form.
But that is the thing, no, Kroenke, because of the whole, when I look at the political leadership and the governmental leadership in Jamaica, then it trickles back down into, like when you look on our sporting organizations all across the board, these people feel like they cannot be held accountable. Like, who are you to be questioning me? But then they just the same wants our support and needs our input. But it's like, I'm gonna go hold you. It's like them hold you and drape your cranky. Give me money in your pocket. So it's to me come like a robbery. Like you're telling me that I should support you. However, my opinions and my views does not matter to you. And if I try to posit an opinion, you're going to say, yo, I am clamping down on misinformation. I'm clamping down on free speech. I'm clamping down on your ability to voice your concern.
So, Txiki, what's your perspective on the Integrity Commission? And now they've been bastardized and labeled a certain way when to me they're just doing their jobs. What's your view on that?
And that's the thing too. That's why I don't understand, like people don't understand that there's oversight bodies. And the reason for these oversight bodies is to keep the government in check and keep certain institutions in check.
Yep.
That's their job. Their job is to keep them in check and ensure that they are running the country, in an ethical, morally, and financially viable. Like all of these things that does not lead to something that is criminal.
Yeah.
Like robbing the coffers or anything like that. That is the purpose of the Integrity Commission. So like when people come out and make certain statements, it seems to me or sounds as if you want your people in the Integrity Commission to do your bidding.
But are the people in the Integrity Commission, are they political?
I am not sure if they're political, but they should not be political. I think those jobs are mutual. They shouldn't be political. They shouldn't be political, you know.
Look, here's how this thing normally work. Whatever country you're in, when adverse news come out against someone, they accuse the other side of being political. They become victims. You hear the man's speech in Parliament, and I'm laughing. He went through the entire sequence I expected him to go through. They first talk about how hard they work. If Txiki, you said this, PC. If you're the Prime Minister, people, me not care how hard you work in terms of you making money. In your work for the constituent, you know, work for make money. So tell me how hard. It's not about hard working hard a lot of time. It's about working hard and smart. I don't care how hard you work. You can't make no money because the politics you get paid what you make.
Listen, that Kroenke, this is the next thing. When he came and said, "Oh, hard he works," I'm like, hold on. How hard you work in government does not allow you to accumulate wealth because it's not a system built on accumulation of wealth. Private business is a system built on accumulation of wealth.
Yep.
Government system is a system built on public good. Providing services that increase the livity of the livelihood of people in the country. Whether it be like providing proper schools, proper hospitals, proper policing, all of these things is to increase the livelihood of the people in the country. Yeah. So, and doing so, you make the correct, like macro decisions, micro decisions, the correct policies, monetary policies, fiscal policies to enable financial growth and stability in your country, right?
Yeah.
But if you is a businessman and you're a politician, then you on the side of being a businessman would basically gain from some of those decisions. Whether you are in the decision making, but you would gain because you have a business, which you probably, in my opinion, should not be directly linked to.
But Txiki, how can somebody be a prime minister and have business? And their name is not Trump. How can they be a prime minister? Txiki, I'm confused. You have a number of companies, $400 million Jamaican dollars pass through those companies.
But there's an ironic situation now. The opposition leader, basically, I think he's a part of the founding people and for a company in Jamaica. One of the top private companies in Jamaica. The opposition leader. So if he becomes prime minister, he will have a business that benefits from certain fiscal and monetary policies.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, which is this: he's not the prime minister. But as the opposition leader, he should have resigned from those organizations. Do you know this? That when Kamala Harris became vice president, her husband was a partner in a law firm, making millions a year. He resigned his post in the law firm and took up a teaching job at Georgetown University because of the conflict that it would pose for him being in that law firm and his wife being a vice president. That's how these things work, people. You have to make sacrifice for the larger good. You can afford to have the actual or optical conflict of interest being there.
Well then, Kroenke, what if you own a part of the company?
You sell your part. Don't go in politics. Or you know what you do? It then goes in what we call a blind trust, right? You have no control. You have no say. You have no idea what's happening, right? It goes in a trust. Somebody else manage it for you. You don't manage it. You don't make any decisions. Now, does that work practically? Maybe sometimes not, but that's what you do. You don't have any say. You don't have any control, right? That's how it should work.
But that's the thing, though, Kroenke. I don't believe these people. They're not. I don't think they're capable of giving up power, and that's the problem. Like, you're not. If you want to be a politician, you would have probably, if you're in business, you have accumulated so much wealth already. When you decide that you're going to become the prime minister of the country, like, you have to give up these things.
So somebody says the commission has no teeth. Jamaica needs a good governance. We need a Singaporean system to hold each other and everyone accountable. Yeah, I mean the commission people. I keep telling people, ACC, do you do audits?
Yeah, I used to. I'm not in it anymore though, but I used to.
I'm trying to tell people that it's probably one of the best job because you own nothing. The most uncomfortable job because you have to call out people sometimes. And the more senior the person is, the more painful it is.
Yeah, man, it's one of the like, it's a job where I don't like, and it's one of the most uncomfortable jobs, Kroenke.
Jesus. I'm telling you.
It's stressful.
Yeah,
Because even some situation, as I said, you have to call out people. I've seen situations where people who, because of certain decision, senior people got out of organization through the whole audit process. So it's like those things, and it's a hard decision to make sometimes because some things you're fine, and some things people you have to be brave enough you can come out and say.
Yeah, so I was at a conference about a couple of years ago at the Internal Audit Institute. They have their annual conference out in Vegas, so I went out there, and there was a guy there talking. I think he was at, let me say this one. He was at Tyco, one of those companies that had problems, right? And he had to do an audit and include the CEO. I'm not sure it was Tyco. It's one of those companies where the CEO misused funds for his own personal purposes or used company funds to do something with his office. And then he said, "Oh, by the way, I'm now working in Saudi Arabia." And I laughed. I was like, "Yeah, that's what happens when you." That's what happens when you audit the CEO and call he or she out, and he has to get let go. You have to go too. There's a sacrificial lamb. You gotta go. So because the board gonna get uncomfortable, everybody's gonna get uncomfortable. I've been there, done that. People, I keep telling people yesterday, I've been there, done that. One of the most uncomfortable situations you can be in. The better, you feel great when you do an excellent audit and you find significant issues, and then you realize, oh, I gotta go report them and escalate them. Oh my God, this is gonna be horrible in terms of the process I gotta go through. And I've been through it numerous times. I'm telling you, it's not fun. It's not fun. Not fun. Not fun.
Yeah. Like, and a lot of times, I just say, Kroenke, like, if a decision because of audit where somebody like that, a senior VP let's go, you best know that you're going to go too.
Yep. And the problem that you have is that so you don't have to make a decision, people, and some people don't make the right decision because there's an integrity issue. So some people will not always escalate all the findings they have, given the implication of it, to the organization, to themselves. And that can create a lot of different challenges in the organization. You're going to have mistrust from your staff who believe you're not bringing things forward. You may have mistrust by your board if things materialize later, which you should have brought up. You saw that with the Silicon Valley Bank, where some things were known, not reported. You saw that with Wells Fargo. Auditors did some audits not reporting it, and then it has long-term implications.
But look at Anderson and Anderson. I think with the whole Enron from all of those years, like, you realize, like, that was one of the
Dr.
biggest,
John says auditing is tedious, long, and boring.
when you go into audit, I think that's one of the first things that they teach you. Like, the Anderson and Anderson case is like gospel. That's like the Bible. Like, you go through that where they're telling you that this thing is something that is possible, because they know that people get higher up the food chain, Kroenke.
Yep.
And then because of the level that you are at, you are probably chummy with the VP, you're chummy with the SVP and these people, like, that you have audited. You and them are having conversations because you have communicated with them several times through the year, whether it's interim audit, through the planning phases, all of these things. So over a period of time, you have gotten to know, like you've probably gotten to know them, but you have to understand that your job that you're doing is a job that investors are depending on, and customers are depending on to know that the entity that they are purchasing from or the entity that they're investing in is above board. So therefore,
Yeah.
whatever you do has implications on multiple people and multiple different platforms. So I think that is where a lot of persons have to know, like, you have to understand that once you come in and take up accounting and these things, you have to understand there's an ethical component. That's why there's an ethical exam.
Right.
Because people want you to understand that even though some things might not be illegal, some of these things are not ethical.
So, CC, someone's asking the question here.
solutions.
Someone's asking the question, say, Kroenke, so with all the auditing done on the FinSac fallout, why is there no solution? Because people don't want it to be a solution, Microsoft. There's a difference there. Some things people don't want it to be a solution. There's a difference between private auditors and public auditors. There's a lot of different auditors. It's like being a doctor. There's so many different components to this, but what you do and do. There's external auditors, there's internal auditors, then people have expertise in certain discipline that they audit. It's not one-dimensional in terms of how that works. And things like FinSac are much more challenging, I'll put it that way. Much more challenging to bring to closure. I don't know, I'm not sure why we're even talking about FinSac anymore, because it's sort of water on the bridge, isn't it? Yeah, the whole collapse of the financial system.
You know what I never understood though?
Yeah.
Somebody in FinSac who was on the FinSac committee thing, right? That person was basically thrusted in a position in an entity that was under the government control.
Right.
So someone, so it's like I think NCB, for example, I think it was sold to private ownership. But the person who was in FinSac, in terms of divesting the assets and all of these things from the government, didn't that person become a part of NCB?
Yeah, Jamaica is one big conflict, CC. One big conflict.
Yeah,
but it's not Jamaica alone. In the US, we have the Supreme Court, which is very conflicted too, and people call it bribes, take gratuities from billionaires. So it's not just Jamaica, people. We shouldn't say that. But in Jamaica, nobody goes to jail. In other countries, people go to jail.
Yeah.
In Jamaica, nobody goes. Everybody involved somehow in financial crimes, apart from the lowly person, like 10 steps down, they go get a 2-year, probably get under the table money. They go do a 2-year, because you can take the 2 years. I can't take it. And we pay you off and you're good.
The people who you hear, Kroenke, some little people like, you hear one little manager, one little bank manager on one part, take away one 60 million, and the person that you hear. But you will never hear, I've never heard one of the top white collar people them get
go to jail. Go to jail. Nope.
I've never heard it. I've never heard a story like
so
that.
They all move in the same circles.
Yeah, and even all right, case in point. This is the final thing, Kroenke, because I think you said they had 11 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm here probably half an hour. But you see, look at the education minister, right? Our former education minister. Look at that situation and that scenario.
Yep.
Nothing. As a matter of fact, I think he got some money out of some case recently.
Yep. Yeah, they get rewarded for bad behavior. They get rewarded for, look, people. You can't make this thing. I'm telling people, we keep using the US as an example. If you know the Integrity Commission use Hong Kong as the example a lot of times, CC, you know that, right? And how they built this whole construct. They use Hong Kong and case studies in Hong Kong to do that. I was reading through the report. I'm at page 40-something. I have moved, actually.
Yeah.
I'm seem to be stuck, but it's an interesting read. And the way they had the report, CC, is almost like an audit paper. They have all the things that they sent, all the confirmation they sent, which they call them, I forgot what they call it, statements, confirmation statements. It's basically what it is. They're trying to request from people balances and information. And the people them start lie up. When people start lie up, people, when you're asking for regular information, it becomes concerning, Because lawyer get involved, it's like you see with Man City. You don't get an outcome. When lawyers get involved, it's locked up in court forever. Yeah.
It's a different thing. But yeah, man, Kroenke, we have that leadership problem on that transparency thing. But big up yourself in a Kroenke.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the call, CC. Yeah, man. Thanks. Respect. Appreciate it. Yeah. So that was CC people who is also an auditor or an accountant by trade, was in audit. And I can empathize and sympathize with him and empathize and sympathize with those or an integrity commission, the Auditor General, because it's a hot seat to be in. And as I said yesterday, which is my last point, is the worst thing you can be is auditing an office or a person like a prime minister. There is no higher person in the country. And if the audit seems to suggest some element of impropriety, it's 10 times worse than you can imagine. You imagine in that seat, we're trying to tell the prime minister, like, look, your finances don't look right. And him pushing back really hard and making it political. Instead of him addressing what you're saying, he's making it political and saying, oh, bad mind. Now, the concept of bad mind means you're jealous, you're envious. Some of them people have more money than the prime minister. What am I envious about? If you're on that panel, which I see on that Integrity Commission panel, they probably have, they're not jealous about nothing. They're just trying to do the right thing. They're an oversight, as Cece said, they're an oversight body, a governance body whose responsibility is to make sure things are being done appropriately and the public's interest. And them get accused. And no found out there having a party affiliation or not just as bad as them people, as the prime minister. Because they don't start lining up and say, yes, I'm right. A political thing. For nothing for yourself and say, you know what? Maybe this is not right. Maybe we should find out what it is. Maybe there's something here. Maybe we should get all the information. Maybe the FID should investigate. Why does the prime minister have 3-4 companies that run $1 million for them company there? How does that work? Why am I have 24 bank account, even though you hear Dennis Strong say, you know, concerned about 24 bank account, me concerned about 24 for a private citizen. It's not an entity, it's not a private company, it's not a public company. But anyway, we talk about this all night. It's a sports program, but we're not one-dimensional. We don't just shut up and dribble. We do talk about things other than what maybe in our immediate domain. It's been a good evening. I appreciate you being here. I may be back tomorrow. Yes, no, that's true, Michael. We know, but also in the US, you had 2007. Nobody really go to jail for, except for the local mortgage broker them who sell bad loan. Not the major investment bank people didn't go to jail in the US either, Michael. So it does happen in even industrialized countries. But people, I appreciate you being here. It's been a good discussion. I may be back tomorrow. You know, I can't make any promise anymore on YouTube because you know how that works. I hope you have a wonderful evening. Thanks for being here with me. If you have any topics you think you want me to talk about, you can drop me an email on the channel and I'll look at it. And if you leave your name, I'll give you credit and we may talk about it. All right. So thanks for being here. Have a good night. Appreciate you. Peace out. Bless up. Frankie Life is the best to be now. For the best sports talk and it's free, yo. Frankie Life will be your guiding light by keeping you informed both day and night. Frankie Life, tell them. Frankie Life, heed them. Frankie Life, want them. Frankie Life. From the courts to the field, we'll never lose because Cranky has the hottest news. With expert analysis, we break it down. Our in-depth coverage is best in town. Cranky Life, tell them. Cranky Life, heed them. Cranky Life, want them. Cranky Life. Cranky Life where the sports is spicy and where we keep the discussion lively. Cranky Life, get to know the name because Cranky analysis is never lame. Cranky Life, give me my Cranky Life. I want my Cranky Life. Must have my Cranky Life. Whether it's football or track and field, you know Cranky is at the wheel. So join the journey through victory and defeat and subscribe and don't miss a beat of Cranky Life. Tell them, Cranky Life. Heed them, Cranky Life. Want them, Cranky Life. If you're from England or USA, from Kingston or Bombay, from Kenya or Canada, Lagos or Havana, visit Cranky Life. Tune into Cranky Life. Like up Cranky Life. Subscribe to Cranky Life. Cranky Life coming to you on weekdays. Cranky Life sometimes on Sundays. Pull up a chair and take a seat because Cranky will always bring the heat. Cranky Life. Me say fi tell them Cranky Life. Me say fi heed them Cranky Life. On them Cranky Life. Cranky Life will be around. Cranky Life is the best in town. Me say fi heed them. Me say fi want them. Me say fi heed them. Want them, heed them, want them. Cranky Life. cranky life. Heed them, want them, heed them, want them. Cranky life. Cranky life. Heed them, want them, heed them, want them, heed them, want them. Cranky life. Cranky life. Cranky. Heed them, want them, heed them, want them, heed, want, heed them.